Okay, so I think in this video we're going to be wrapping up Flappy Bird, and so what we wanted to establish is we've got all these pipe pairs, but they don't actually impact the game at all. The player is also able to kind of crash and fall through the floor, and we want to prevent that as well. So I guess what we need to start doing is introducing some victory conditions, or more correctly, some conditions that make it so that the player can no longer progress. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make it so that when you fall on the floor, that ends the game. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this and I'm going to expand the collider for the floor, similar to how we did before. I'm going to remove the mesh collider, so remove component, and we're going to add a box collider, so physics, box collider, and I'm just going to take and I'm going to expand that out so it's nice and thick like that. So there's no way that the player will be able to fall straight down without hitting that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and change the tag of this object. And so what tagging does is it basically allows you to kind of put little post-it notes on things. It allows you to categorize objects, and it's a great way to tell whether or not something is what you want, what you either want it to be or don't want it to be. For example, so in order to change this ground, I'm going to go up to tag, and I'm going to click on add tag. And I'm going to, you can see that it says this list is empty. I'm just going to go ahead and add one to this list. And I'm just going to call this ground and press enter. That doesn't actually set that ground tag. All that did was it actually just created that tag. So now I still have to go back to the ground and add this as a tag. So I'm going to say ground. Now I'm going to go into my bird controller, and I'm going to implement some collision detection. So I'm going to say void on collision enter, collision other, collision other. And so what we're going to do is we're going to say here if, and this is where we're going to add in a real quick check. So we're going to say if other.gameObject.tag equals ground. Make sure that you type that exactly the same in both places. So this means that I just collided with the ground. What I'm going to do in the event that I collide with the ground right now is I'm just going to print out a message that says something like collided with ground, just to make sure that that's working correctly. So we'll go ahead and minimize that. And we go ahead and press play. And I fall, and it says that I collided with the ground, which is perfect. That's exactly what we want. Cool. So the next type of thing that we want to be able to collide with are these pipes. I'm going to go to my pipe prefab, and I'm actually going to go and drag and drop this out into my scene just so that I can edit one that's like actually existing. Because sometimes editing your prefabs can be kind of weird, just because it's not like it's not a pipe that really exists. You can kind of see how it's broken down, but sometimes I like to just drag and drop a pipe, a prefab, just so that I can work with it directly. So with this pipe prefab, this pipe pair here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab each one of these individual pipes, and I'm going to make sure that it is tagged as a pipe. So I'm going to click add tag, and I'm going to add a new tag, which I'm going to call pipe. So here we go, pipe. And what I'm going to do is go to each one of these pipes, and I'm going to actually tag it as a pipe. So pipe and pipe. Now this is important. If you make a change to a prefab, or rather if you make a change to an instance of a prefab, then you're going to need to make sure that you click on apply on the instance of the prefab so that it applies itself to the actual prefab itself. Now let me show you what I mean. Down here in the project view, if I click on each one of these pipes, these individual pipe segments, you'll notice that both of those are not tagged. They're both tagged as untagged. These pipes that exist in the scene right now, they're both tagged as pipe. If I want this change to propagate against the prefab that's inside of the project view, all I have to do is select the prefab and click apply. Now if you go down here into the project view, you'll now see that these individual pipe pieces are both tagged as pipe, which is what we want. So now I can go ahead and delete this. So what I'm going to do now is inside of my bird controller. And I'm going to go ahead and just add another if check. So I'm going to say if other.gameObject.tag equals pipe, then we want to just make note that we just collided with a pipe. Oops. Cool. All right, so let's go ahead and test this. So I'll minimize, and I'll press play. So let me just keep on jumping just so I can survive long enough to get to a pipe. And we're colliding with pipes everywhere, and we're doing backflips and all sorts of funny stuff. So awesome. But the point is that we got this message that we were looking for, which is this which is this collide with pipe. So cool, making progress. All right, so in the actual game Flappy Bird, it shows this elaborate game over screen and all that stuff when you die, but that dives a little bit too deep into subjects that are kind of outside of the scope of what we're planning on covering for this particular module. And so instead of actually doing that, what we'll do is we'll set up this scene so that in the event that the player does indeed hit something that would make them die or lose the game, we'll just reload the level. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on File, and we'll just go to Build Settings. And in the build settings, this is basically just going to allow us to set up what kind of scenes we want to be factored into the final game. So I'm going to pick Add Current, which will add the current scene to the project. And basically that just adds this scene to what's called the scene manifest. So now what I can do inside of my bird controller is, in the event that I just collided with one of these things, I'll instead just do application.load level, and I'll load the level called Flappy Bird. Cool, so there we go. Now in the event that I hit the ground, or if I touch a pipe, we'll just reload the level. So we'll go ahead and press play. And we'll just crash into this, and you can see that it reloads the level. So this is pretty much a complete implementation of Flappy Bird. It of course lacks a means of providing feedback to the user in terms of a score, and it misses out on some of the social features that are also included in Flappy Bird. But hopefully it gets the idea across at just how easy it can be to put together a basic game like this. And I'll also have a video that I'll upload that will include kind of like some added features that will include things like varying the heights of the pipe segments as they come at the player. I'll also include logic on how a player can go about keeping how a user can keep informed on the score by introducing some user interface elements, and also do some other things to get this closer and closer to a finished project. But I think that this project does what it aims to do, which is just kind of cement a couple of ideas. Those ideas being instantiation. Instantiation is all about creating objects at runtime, and so in this example we are obviously creating these pipe segments at runtime, and we are also engaging in collision detection. The player is capable of colliding with the floor and is capable of colliding with the pipes, and we're able to keep track of we're able to keep track of those events and are able to we're able to follow suit with some sort of logic. In this case, all we're doing is we're reloading the level. But the point is that we're detecting objects of a certain type. We're detecting the collision, and then we're doing something that's meaningful within the context of the game. So that should conclude it for this segment and this module. And again, in the future, I'll be posting up another segment that will be dedicated to adding additional features to Flappy Bird after we have some more skills under our belt.